And a couple of weekend series for you this past week. One a split and one a sweep. Scored a lot of runs during the weekend, except for the one game. And of course, that's the one game that you dropped. But kind of overall, your thoughts first on the Minot State series on Saturday.
Well, I think overall, in general, 3-1 is a solid weekend. I think we felt like we should have been 4-0. That's the competitive side of where you're at and kind of where we needed to be with postseason looming and things like that. So that one loss comes in that Minot series, and I was really happy with how we played in game one against Minot. And I wasn't unhappy with game two and how we played. Ultimately, we just didn't score enough runs, or we gave up too many, one or the other, because at the end of the day, you got to have one more than the other guy, and we were two less. So, but I thought game one went really well with our approach. A lot of what we have seen this year is a little bit different than in the past across the board, that slow has become the new fast with pitching. It used to be that arms were really trying to dominate you and overpower you. But if you can't overpower, now we're starting to see a lot of people really trying to go slow on us and off speed, drop balls, working down in the zone, try to get yourself out, basically. And in game one of Minot, they were trying to do that very thing. And I thought our kids' approach was really, really good, where we just took what the game gave us. We had a lot of base hits up the middle. We got base runners early, and we were able to capitalize on it. Then they made a pitching change, sped up a little bit, and we were able to catch up to it and finally got the ball out of the ballpark. And then in game two, those base hits became ground balls to the shortstop and second baseman, and it's just that little bit of timing. And instead of, having base runners on, we were hitting into hard outs. And but again, we didn't do anything wrong in game two. We just didn't quite do enough right. Joe really threw a good game in game one. They've got a ton of speed at Minot. I think they're first or second in the nation in stolen bases. They have 120 stolen bases on the year. But they can't steal first. And Jordan did a good job of keeping them off first base, which kind of held them at bay a little bit. But once they could get kids on, they could really create on the bases. They did a good job with that. But we were able to kind of stay out ahead of them long enough that it kind of took the run game away from them. And so from that perspective, I thought how we game planned was successful. And it worked, and the kids executed it very well in game one. In game two, we were just kind of on the short end of it.
And what do you think it was for game two, not being able to get the offense going? I mean, do you tip your hat to the pitcher? Do you chalk it up as just an off day for the offense after really exploding in that first game? I mean, what are some of the reasons in game two? Well,
that's an interesting question, and if we have an hour, I might be able to get around to an answer. But what I said to the team afterwards is, what's frustrating is we've lost that same game now about 6 times. Mm-hmm. And you go back to the Rogers game, we lost 3-2. We left a bunch of people on base. You go back to the Missouri Western loss, we lost 3-1, left a bunch of people on base. The Mankato loss 3-1. We left people on base. Our formula is pretty tried and true. If we get to 4, we win. And now that Minot game, we would have needed 6 because we gave up 5. And so I think, it was 2 things: that we didn't make any mistakes. We gave up probably too many runs early in that first inning. We gave up 3 in the first inning, and now we're chasing the whole game. But offensively, to answer your question, we tend to press a little bit when we're chasing, and you kind of get in that got to mode, and we get out ahead a little bit. We try to do a little too much, and we roll over on some balls instead of driving some pitches, things like that. I don't know. It's the one thing we've been pretty consistent with this year is being inconsistent at times. Where one of the things I wanted to do this morning, but we were at such a late night getting home last night, I haven't really gotten to it yet, is to really look at what our numbers are in game two, because what it feels like to me is our bugaboo is game two. We're losing a lot of game twos the same way, where we're not scoring runs and where we're leaving people on base. So part of it, I think, is a sense of urgency where we relax a little bit. We're young. A lot of our top hitters are young kids, and So you kind of feel like been there, done that, and all of a sudden you get into game 2 and you have to realize, look, man, we got to roll here just as much, and it's not just going to happen. We've got to earn it. But overall, really, I think we're trying to put labels on something that just isn't there. That the game is hard, the game is challenging, and you've got to go out and earn it every game. And I kind of look back now at 30-0 2 years ago and think, man, how the heck did we do that? And because we just never had these games, and this year we've had about 6 of them, and that's not awful. There are a lot of people who like to trade places with this, but so I don't know. I think I know, yet I also know that it's challenging to fix it because our kids aren't up there trying to hit ground balls at shortstop either, and yet sometimes that's where the ball goes instead of doubling the gap.
Okay. Let's move on then to the next day, Sunday, yesterday as we tape against Mary, 10-0 and 9-1. So obviously whatever ailed you against Minot was fixed by the time you got to Mary. Talk about those games and what you saw from your team in those.
Yeah, and again, from the pitching side, Jordan came out and dominated yesterday. That was she was good. And she was an infield hit away from a perfect game. And Jordan's had a lot of no-hitters in her career, more than most people, obviously, and is a record setter that way. But she hasn't had a lot of perfect games because perfect games are tough. And she goes into the last inning with a perfect game going and gives up an infield hit, and kid reaches out and taps one into the 5-6 hole that we were able to make the play. Just couldn't throw the kid out. But so it started there. I mean, she really set the tone on the mound. She struck out a lot of kids, had a lot of great swing and miss stuff. But then offensively, we're able to get on the board early. They didn't play great defensively in their outfield, and we were able to take advantage of that. We hit the ball hard at them in the gaps. They kicked the ball around a little bit, so we were able to get some extra bases. We scored a lot on balls that normally maybe we wouldn't have scored on. But again, that's a credit to our offense that we put the ball in play hard and put the ball in play aggressively. And then in game 2, we did the same thing, and Libby was able to get the ball out of the ballpark. When we hit home runs, we win games. And what I liked about game 1 was we were able to put up 10 runs without a home run. And then in game 2, we got the ball at the ballpark and we went in. And this was good enough. And then Emily came in the end and was really good. Like faced 3 hitters, really good stuff, had really good presence. She hasn't been on the mound in a while, and so that was good to see too.
Okay. Yeah, you talked about the home runs. You've had 41 home runs as a team. You have given up only 21, and obviously you've had some dominant pitching, so that's not that big of a surprise. But what do you think is the reason for the power surge this year?
Well, we got some kids that we really think can hit home runs, and we're not a fast team. We're not going to win games with our speed. Again, we're built to win with pitching and defense, and I think right now we're in the top 2 or 3 in the nation. Defensively as a team. That's still the most controllable piece of what we do. So on the offensive side, that's where the home run becomes important. If we can't put a lot of hits together, if one hit counts for a run, or if one hit counts for multiple runs, and then we can shut you down with our pitching and our defense, that's just kind of who we are. That's really what our identity is. And I don't want to depend on the home run by any stretch, but it's where the home run becomes important for us because we don't give up a lot of offense. We don't give up a lot of runs. And so the ability to score runs with one swing and to be able to separate, becomes important. Then the challenge of that, if that's going to be who you are, if that's what you are, and you can't create a lot of offense, then it gets harder. Now you really got to pitch and defend, because if the formula is to get your runs with the home run and you're not hitting the ball in the ballpark, it gets harder. And so that is the challenge. But I think the power surge comes. We worked a lot on getting the ball in the barrel and driving the ball. We've got some kids, when they do drive the ball, make really good contact, it's not going to be a base hit. It's going to be a home run. Like any team, like the Twins or anybody else who depends on the long ball, it's a blessing and a curse, and it can be really fruitful for you, or it can be a quick way to get shut down. And I think that's why teams try to go soft on us, to get us out front, to get us to pop up and roll over on things instead of drive the ball.
All right. It is the final weekend of the regular season coming up, which is amazing. We've talked about that, about how fast the season has gone. But it's an interesting one because you're going to host Augustana on Saturday. Obviously, one of the top teams, not only in the NSIC, but in the nation. And then Wayne State, who's sort of at the bottom of the NSIC. Obviously, both are huge a week or series for you because you're sitting at third place right now, and you want to kind of move up a little bit. But how do you handle facing one of the top teams in the nation, and then follow that up with facing a team that's maybe just a little bit lower in the standings?
We try to prepare for that from the very beginning, starting in January. When we pass out our schedules to the team, they don't have team names on them. It just says game home 1:00, game away 12:00. And so we never talk about our opponents here, never have, because my philosophy is if there's a big game on your schedule, then there's a small game on your schedule. Now what you do as a team is you start to play to that level. You get amped up for the big game, and then you think, okay, this team's not quite as good, and so you don't have to play as hard, and you start to play at the level of your opponent, the level of your competition. So we never talk about opponent. We never talk about who it is, and it's 12 girls named Jane. Good, they're here. Let's play. And that's kind of the way we handle it. What we try to do is always take care of our business. People have to beat us. We're not going to beat ourselves. And if somebody's good enough to beat us, we tip our cap, we move on. I'm just going to make sure we never beat ourselves. So we simply try to prepare for every team every day. And so that mindset for us has to start at the beginning. It can't come this weekend. If we try to drill into them that, hey, Sunday's every bit as important as Saturday, or Saturday's the big one game, we got to be ready for that. Then Sunday takes on a lesser meaning. And so we try to really instill that in them from day one, that every opponent's the same and that everybody can beat you. So what we're going to do is take care of us. We're not going to worry about who we're playing. We're going to make them worry about us. And so that's kind of how we go about it. I say that to say this. The kids know it's Augie on Saturday. I mean, they know what that means. And when that bus shows up and those uniforms show up across from us, there's an extra level of goosebumps and butterflies. There's an extra level of a hop in your step. And they know they're the defending national champions. They know that they earned that by beating us by one run on our field. And so there's something to it, and you try not to play up to it. But you do get excited that there's a little more vibe in the stadium.
We have just about a minute left in this segment, but what do you expect practice to look like this week heading up to this weekend?
We're giving them 2 days off in a row, which we haven't done in a while. But the long bus ride, we're on a bus 13 hours going up to Minot, that's with stops and everything else on Friday. And then almost 10 hours coming home last night, got home at 2 a.m. Normally we're off on Mondays anyway. But we're going to give them Tuesday off as well. We'll do our team picture and do some late afternoon lifting and stretching that day to kind of get active on Tuesday. But we wanted to give them enough recovery time since we had it and of the long trip. And then that way we can really sharpen in on our focus Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 3 days to get prepared again. Our older kids, our fifth-year kids are getting old. Their body needs a little extra recovery time. And then our freshmen are in a unique situation where we're done with classes now. So they've all got to move out of the dorms this week. And so we wanted to give time to do those types of things and then really be focused Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for our contest.
All right, very good. Thank you for the time again this week, and good luck this weekend against Augustana and Wayne State.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate it.